All right, if you guys have been following me on Instagram, you have seen this before. This is a 1978 FJ40 that is relatively all original. This was my father-in-law's and we just purchased it from him this morning. So this will be the project car for the channel. It has sat since 1997 and it needs a lot of work to be truly roadworthy. So this has just under 53,000 original miles. I pulled the head off, replaced a couple of valves, changed the valve seals, changed the head gasket, changed the rocker guard gasket, complete tune-up, distributor cap, rotor wires, put the head back on, replaced all of the cooling system, thermostat, water pump, every hose, got the radiator record, and then fully rebuilt the carburetor. Put it all back together, did a valve adjustment, tuned the carb, got it running nice and smooth. But like I said, it needs a lot of work to be a driver. The suspension is old, shocks, brakes, all that stuff is just wore out from one age and also from sitting for so long. Moving on to the interior. He had the seats reupholstered with factory material around the late 80s. This was parked in 97. And here's a close-up of the dash and the gauge cluster. Moving on to the back. It's got the spare tire carrier. Factory ambulance doors. This is a mustard yellow with white hardtop. And it's got the rear jump seats, all stock. We did get a brand new floor mat from Toyota to replace the old one. But other than that, everything else in here is all factory. We will have to do the headliner for sure, get that back in order, but if you notice, this has a sunroof. This was not a factory option. I plan on fiberglassing that closed, respraying the roof, and then putting the headliner in. So look forward to all of those future videos on this as well. Underneath, it's a little dirty, but no severe rust. Just a, surface rust for an old vehicle, which is normal. One thing I thought that was pretty cool was this has all the factory hubcaps. And if you notice, this one has the center cut out for the manual locking hubs. You've got the rear to match the front without the cutout. But you've also got the spare that has its own unique style cap. So I thought that was pretty cool. I do plan on putting larger tires, but I will be using these stock wheels. So something like a 33 by 10.5. With the stock steelies. This little car has windows for days. I got the little back one popped out right here. One thing we will have to address is these door seals. These crumble apart with age. The problem is that they're bonded to the door. So I have to scrape it all off, clean the surface, prep it, get the new seals, and put a new adhesion promoter on it. One thing I did like a lot was this little kick vent. I'll show you on the other side. Get some direct airflow right into the lower part of the dash. And this is on the passenger and driver side of the vehicle. Should be able to open and close it with your foot, which is pretty cool. But I do plan on adding air conditioning. I've got quite a bit of cars. I've had cars without AC, and it's just not something I'm interested in driving anymore, especially in Southern California. Makes the cars, unusable for a lot of the time of the year when it's really hot and you don't want to sweat like crazy. While we're at it, I figured I'd grab the keys and jump in and start this thing. Let's see if it cranks over. gas for it. But yeah, this thing revs nice. I drove it down the street. It does okay, but I need to change all the fluids in the powertrain, grease the U-joints, maybe even change them if they're shot, and do a baseline tune-up since I don't know any of the history of this car at all. One thing I forgot to mention was I did also change those brake pedal pads with OEM Toyota pads that he had. They were in the truck when I got towed over, so I figured I would swap them out. And I really thought this was cool, this little plaque on the dash. Riveted on, looks like a fancy piece. You know, they actually cared when they put these cars together back then. It looks like I got an indicator light I need to swap out up here. But as you can see, it runs. I learned a lot on ignition timing and valve adjustments of this particular motor. It's an inline 6 from Toyota. Essentially an old tractor motor at the time, I guess, but it works. It's easy to work on, that's for sure. I ended up putting a factory Toyota battery in it as well, just to kind of keep the engine bay stock. He did want to paint the airbox lid black because of the rust, but I told him to leave it as is. So I'll be leaving a lot of the factory parts the way they came out. I don't believe in a full resto on this. It's pretty much a survivor the way I see it. But one thing I'm not a huge fan of is this stripe. It was some dealer added stripe at the time. Looks really 70s. The only thing is though, if I take it off, the paint is probably gonna be a different color underneath. So I don't know if I should take it off or not. I know it's single stage, so we could probably buff it out, but I don't know, maybe leave a comment below if you've ever done it or experienced it and see what my options are here. But I feel like it would look a lot better without that stripe. Sounds pretty good for an inline 6. One thing I did notice was this tank right here is a second gas tank. So at some point, the man that owned it prior to my father-in-law, because he did have it for 2 years from 78 to 80, he put an auxiliary gas tank. So they drilled a hole on the side, put a CV antenna, which I'm not a huge fan of on this. So this is the stock gas fill, and the stock gas tank is under here. So this thing has 2 tanks. Right now I disabled the second one because the hoses were brittle and leaking, and when I was trying to test start this and get it running, I figured it was gonna be too much of a fire hazard, so it's bypassed and it's ran all stock for now. I changed the fuel pump out with a brand new unit, fuel filter. All those parts were actually sourced OEM, so a lot of the stuff that's on here is still produced by Toyota. They made it for a long time and they still sell it. Well, this is it, guys. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. My wife and I are proud to be the newest owners of this classic. We'll be getting it back on the road where it should be. It's too nice to be sitting around under a car cover. And we'll probably even get it back on the trails. I don't see why not. It is a 4-wheel drive.